In this video, we will recreate the card box project that we discussed in the live lesson number 3. To begin with, we're going to start by establishing the size of our material, and the width is 5.5 inches. The length is 15, and the thickness is 0.75 inches. I use the tab key to move from one to the other, and that greatly simplifies it. One thing we all should need to notice here that we're referencing the front left corner of our object at this time. We'll go back up here, and next thing we're going to do is change our bit size because we're going to be using a 1/4 inch bit. See if I can find the one I like here. Any 1/4 inch bit will do. We use this one here. That'll be fine. All right, so now we have defined the size of our box here. We know we're using a 1/4 inch bit, and we're ready to move. I'm going to move this down here to give us a little more visibility to the graph paper here. One thing to notice on the graph paper is the numbering system. On the bottom left, we start at 0, and we go up in the Y direction, and we go to the right in the X direction. That's because we're referencing this point on the wood down here, the material that we defined. We're referencing this point right here. So the first thing we need to do is create a rectangle, and this rectangle is going to define the size of the box. The box will be 4 3/8 wide, 4.375, and it will be 6 1/8 high, 6.125. And the first thing we're going to do is edit and center to the material. And the reason we do that is it's easier to line up these rectangles when we make this box if everything's centered to the material. All right, so let's go finish defining this. We'll go to the cut, and we're going to cut this all the way through. So I'm going to move that slider all the way down to 0.75. And instead of clearing out a pocket, we're going to cut outside the shape path. And if you look over here on the right, you'll see that we're actually cutting a block of wood out of the material that we have in the machine. All right. Now the next step we're going to take is something that should make things go a little quicker later on. We're going to go back to the work pieces and bring them up. And I'm going to do a duplicate. And by duplicating this, what I've got is the box top here, the box bottom here, and the box top here at the beginning of it, and they're both the same size, which is what we want. Let's go back to the box bottom, which is the first workpiece, and we're going to add rectangle number 2. Rectangle number 2 is the exact same size as rectangle number 1, so I can do a Control-C, Control-V, or I could do an edit, copy, and an edit, paste. Both, you can do it either way. All right, we're going to change the cut settings on this. In this instance, it's going to be a 1/4 inch deep, and we're going to cut on the shape path. We go down here. We're going to cut on the shape path. But now we're going to send it to material. Click back on that. Send it to the material. And we'll notice that rectangle number 2 is sitting on top of rectangle number 1. That poses a little bit of problem. I think we demoed it in class showing if you take a piece of paper and put it on top of another piece of paper, then you can no longer see the bottom one. Well, the same thing happened here. And in order to fix that, we'll have to move rectangle number 2 to the bottom. So we're going to send it to the back. And by doing that, you'll notice now we have our cut over here again. And if you look closely, you can see the rabbit that we've created by cutting the rectangle number 2 on the shape path. We're actually taking 1/8 of an inch of material off around the cut piece of wood here, and we're going down 1/4 inch with that cut. All right, the next thing we're going to do is rectangle number 3, and that's a little more complicated. So we're going to go down here to the workpieces, and we're going to add a new workpiece. And workpiece number 3, the rectangle, workpiece. The rectangle number 3 for this workpiece is 4 inches wide by 5 3/4 inches high. So we'll set our width to 4, and the height to 5.75. And again, I'm going to center it to the material. And what we're going to do is set the cut settings on it. The cut settings for this are the same as, well, it's something we have to define. We could use pretty much anything we want, but I want to leave about an 1/8 inch thickness at the bottom of our box. In other words, the bottom of the card box is going to be about an 1/8 inch thick. And since we have a 3/4 inch board, we're going to take 5/8 of an inch away from it, and that'll leave us the dimension we want. So we're going to change the depth of cut to 0.625. And now we're going to be cut out 5/8 worth of material here. All right, now we need to put the separators that we decided we need in this this box, this card box. And those separators, rectangle number 3 now, will be 1.5 inches wide, 1.5, and it's going to be 3/4 of an inch high, or 0.75. I'm going to center the material, and I'm going to change the corner radius to 0.25. And one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the cut depth all the way up to no cut depth, or 0. Notice that it turned white, and these are areas we will not cut. If I set something to 0, it will not cut. All right, so let's go to our rectangle here. We're going to copy and paste that because we need 2 of these. And now we've created rectangle number 4. Now that we don't have them spaced correctly yet, we know they're spaced okay in the Y direction because we centered them, but we haven't spaced them properly in the X direction. So I'm going to go back over to this plywood, and I'm going to change our reference from front left corner to center. And when we do that, if we go back over to our graph paper, and I'll make this bigger. Hang on, let me put this down. Make this bigger so you can see it. You can see that the reference now is from the center of the board. So 0, 0 is at the center of the board, where before 0, 0 was at the bottom left corner. We can use this feature to help us align things, and that's what we're going to do now. If I click on rectangle number 3, and look at it's set to reference the lower left corner of that rectangle. And if you notice that X at this point is -2 inches. Well, that makes sense. The the rectangle is 4 inches wide. We're referencing the center. Therefore, the left edge should be -2. Let's go to rectangle number 3 here. And we're going to move that over to the left. And -2 will get us close to where we want to be. But in fact, let's do that. We'll set it to -2. But I want you to look right here. See the round over that we did, the radius that we put in the corner here is still visible there. So we're going to shift it a little further over to eliminate that. So we'll go over another 1/8 of an inch, and that will eliminate that problem. All right. And then we're going to do the same on the right one. We're going to go over and click on this. And this time we're going to reference the lower right corner. And X here would be, instead of being -2.125, it's going to be +2.125. Now we have them both lined up where we want. I'm going to check the 0 here, and the center point rather. And notice that Y is 0, which is what we want. It's in the center. So I think we've defined the look of what we want for the inside of our box. So we're going to take one more step here. We're going to highlight everything, and we're going to do an edit, combine. Now what happens when we combine? Well, if the 3 rectangles, if they all had some depth, in other words, if rectangles 4 and 5, I had left them alone and not set them to 0, this would have combined them all. And you would have had a rectangle with a couple little bumps in the center here, right here, where we moved it 1/8 of an inch further beyond the border of the rectangle. But since we set the depth of cut to 0, easel treats that differently. In that case, it does a subtract. So it has now subtracted the two white areas from the dark area that we have here. And the result is one object, not three objects anymore, but just one object. And I'll click on that, and just to take a look at it and show you the difference, I'm going to change it from clear out of pocket temporarily to one of the other ones. Use any one you want, doesn't matter. But it shows you that the rectangle has been permanently changed. Rectangles 3 has been permanently changed. Rectangle 4 and 5 have disappeared. Let's change this back to clear out of pocket, which is what we want. And we're going to now move this over to our box bottom. So I'm going to copy this, edit copy, or Control C. And we're going to go to our workplaces down here, workpiece rather, and click on the first workpiece, which contains our box bottom. And we're going to paste it in there. Now we're going to center it to the material. And what has that done? We've now finished the box bottom. We have a rabbit. We have a wall for our box right here. We have the separators that we configured in the last step. And everything looks like it is. In fact, the box bottom is virtually complete at this point. So let's go move over and work on the top a little bit. So we'll click on the second workpiece. And remember, we copied the rectangle from step number 1. And so this is the same size as the box bottom. So again, we're going to copy, Control C, Control V, and we're going to create a second rectangle here. This would be rectangle number 6. Or number 7, excuse me, rectangle number 7. And what we're going to do here is, again, cut on the shape path. We'll change the depth of cut to 0.3 inches. Now, why did I choose 0.3? Well, if you remember in the first instance, we set the depth of the on-shape path cut to 0.25 inches. That will, in order to make the box top fit on top of the box bottom, we need to leave a little clearance between them. And if I set this to 0.25 inches, it would be flush, which is fine. But it should be set with a little clearance. So I'm going to set it to something greater than 0.25. And you could choose 0.27 or 0.28, whatever. I've chosen 0.3. All right. Now, of course, next step is, as always, we edit, censor the material. And what do we have? Well, here we go again. We've lost our ability to cut out the piece of wood because rectangle number 7 is sitting on top of rectangle number 6, and we need it to be below it. So we're going to send number 7 to the back, and that fixes our problem. All right, now one more rectangle to go. And let's get it done. All right, we're going to now cut out this area in the center, and we're going to do that by creating a rectangle, the last rectangle, and number 8 rectangle is 4 1/8 wide, 4.125, 4.125, and it's 5 7/8 high, 5.7785 or 875, excuse me. All right. And we're going to set the depth of cut on this again to 5/8 of an inch. And what that will do is leave about an 1/8 inch left, and that will be the thickness of the top of the box. So it's 0.625. Now I'm going to center to the material again. And if you look over here on the right, you'll see that we actually have the top of the box completed. That simple. All right. Now, let's put it all together. Next thing we want to do is create one more workpiece. And I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to duplicate it. And now we have the focus on that particular workpiece. And one thing this thing has is it's centered to the material. I want to move it down a bit. But the first thing I'm going to do is, no, I'll just move it down. Let's move it down. I'm going to set Y to, we're going to first set our reference to this lower left corner here of this rectangle. And I've highlighted the whole thing now, not just one piece, but I've highlighted the whole thing. And we're going to set Y to minus 6.75. And that should bring it right near the bottom of the box. Let's see what I did here. Bring it back. Oh, okay. When I created this rectangle, when I created this last workpiece, notice that it went back to, instead of being in the center, it's referencing the lower left corner. So let's go back over here and fix that problem. Notice it's sent to the left corner, so we'll make it into the center. All right. Now when I click on this and type in minus 6.75, move it down where we want. And you can see we've left some space down here for clamping. So that's about where we'd want this to be. And we're going to move the top up here next. So let's go over to where we created our top, which is here. And we're going to copy this whole thing. Again, copy the whole thing. Go back to our workpiece number 4 where we're combining everything. And we're going to paste it in there. This time I'll use the paste function up top here. And what did I miss here? Didn't copy it correctly. Let me back up a little bit. Control Z gets you back. So we're going to go back to the top again. See why I didn't copy the whole thing. Hang on, I'll get the whole thing. There we go. Control C. And let's go back to this one and see if we get it right this time. Control V. Yeah, we got it that time. All right, and this one, we want to do the same thing we did before, but we're going to move it to the top this time. So we'll reference the top of the rectangle, and we'll change X to 6.75. Now we've put these two, the top and the bottom, approximately where we want it. And I simulated the work path there while we're moving it about. And you'll notice it says it's going to take 2 hours and 27 minutes to do this. It is a relatively lengthy cut for sure. Anyway, go back over here, and I think we're pretty well done here, except for one thing. We've set the dimensions, the inner dimensions of the top box at 4.125, I think, yeah, and 5.875, which ends up being exactly the same size as the bottom rabbit down here. That's this guy here. Remember the gray piece here? Let me see if I can click on him. There we go. And he's set to 4.375. But remember, we cut on the shape path. So we're really going to take an 1/8 inch all around out of this, or a 1/4 inch in total. And when you do that, this the rabbit removed, the width of that remaining piece ends up being 4 1/8 by 6 and 5 7/8. So we'll give ourselves 5 thousandths worth of clearance. I'm going to change the size of this box here, or this rectangle. I'm just going to take 5 thousandths off each one. All right. Now it's going to be just a little bit smaller, and the box top should slide onto the box bottom a little better. You still may have to do some sanding to make it work, but certainly that's a good step to do that. All right, next step, we're going to take the whole thing and we're going to group it. Edit, group. And what that does is allows you to move the whole thing as one piece, but you can't change any of the individual elements. This keeps everything in shape for you. I'll use Control Z to get back to where the middle there. But that really helps us. Now, I can also do a lock. And if I lock it, and that's over here, see this? Lock objects. If I lock it, now I can't move it either. Nothing I can do with it. It's staying right where it is. And that's always a good practice to group and lock prior to going over the machine and putting your model on the machine. Last but not least, we want to go over here. We've got this done now, but remember when in class we talked about the cut settings, and we talked about the feed rate, plunge rate, and they're all set automatically for you because we're in auto mode. But if we go to manual mode, you have an opportunity to change some of these. Now, if we have a particularly hard wood, I'd probably leave it right where it is. And as a matter of fact, the feed rate is adjustable. While you're running, you can move that up and down. There's a slider at the top of the screen. Easel brings it up. It's right around this area up here once you start cutting. The plunge rate, I would leave that alone. The depth per pass, right now we're doing a 32nd inch per pass, which is fine for a hardwood. If I was doing a very soft wood, I might want to speed that up and maybe make that a 1/16 of an inch. Also, when we were in class, we demoed, we showed you what happened with the method we used to hollow out this box, and it was the offset method. I remember it starts here and it moves around in circles almost. It's not circles, but and it takes a little bit each time. And what we found was it left a little impression there. It didn't get it cleanly cut. So in this case, we might want to use changed it to a raster, the y-axis. In that case, the cutting would be in this direction, in the direction of the grain of the wood, and probably eliminate most of that feature that we saw that was left there. Just something to think about and something you probably ought to experiment with when you get a chance. All right, so that's the card box project. Please, you can use the addendum that we created to follow along when you viewing this video, and I would recommend you pause the video when you need to add a box and make sure you're doing the dimensions correctly and so forth, but follow along with the addendum and you should be able to do it. So let me know if you have any difficulty with this. I'll be glad to give you a hand.